Welcome back to Self Love Sunday, my dear sister. Whether this is your first time or you are coming back, I am honored you chose this space on your healing journey. I'm just really glad that you have shown up, and not for me, but for yourself. And I'm just here to remind you of who you truly are underneath all of the difficult stuff that have happened within your life. That have wounded you and perhaps made you forget of your true power. I see you already on the other side of healing, the version of you that is free, that is happy and unapologetic about living her life. And today we're going to be talking about a wound, a very deep core wound that so many women carry. One of the symptoms of that wound is accepting toxic and traumatic dynamics in our lives. And that wound is not necessarily you not being loved, but it is you being loved for only some parts of yourselves. So that could be loved for being kind, helpful, emotionally available, forgiving, soft, supportive, right? So somehow reducing you to only those qualities. And after years of being mirrored for your emotional usefulness, you slowly stop to believe that you could also be absolutely brilliant, creative, visionary, intelligent, artistic, powerful, perhaps even a leader. And this is not because those qualities were ever absent or are absent, but because nobody reflected them consistently enough to you, so you can embody them. And that changes the entire structure of your identity. And it makes you build identity around being useful. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. So let's jump into the episode. So, structuring your identity around being useful. You unconsciously start reorganizing your sense of self around how useful am I to others instead of who am I in my own magnitude? Who am I in my own brilliance? And I think many women that experience trauma bonds or emotionally unhealthy relationships will know exactly what I mean. Because when your worth becomes tied to emotional labor, you begin to shrink parts of yourself that will never mirror back to you properly. And it could go all the way, it usually does go all the way to childhood. I am sure that if you are resonating with this, you were raised to be the good girl, the helpful one, the supportive role, right? Someone in the background, be always available. Don't want too much. Don't make yourself too visible, right? Don't impose your presence onto others. In those instances, like any sign of brilliance may feel accidental. Your wit may feel like performance for others or protection, right? Or showing that you can be, like acceptable too within a conversation. Your creativity, vision can feel unrealistic, and your leadership or leadership as it is may be something that other people do, but not you, right? And even your dreams may start to feel embarrassing. And that's not because they are unrealistic, but because nobody ever looked at you and said, I can see you there. Looking at my own example, I remember performing and acting when I was younger, back in high school. And it almost felt like easy, like just going with it, But back then, it was like that. It was easy because I never truly believed that it could be real for me, Like I never imagined that people could come to just see me, that my face could be in the center of the stage. If you don't know my background, I used to I pursued acting a career for a little bit of my adulthood, yeah, just for the context. So the fact, the thought that I could be the reason why people show up, that was very. It didn't even cross my mind for a long time, right? So I could perform bravely when it all felt hypothetical. But the moment I started caring about this, started to pursue it, the moment I thought, what if I actually want that? It suddenly became terrifying. I remember shaking. I remember, I still do that extensively, blinking. My facial expressions went wild. Not very useful for the camera, let me tell you. Okay, maybe you can see it in the recording now. Anyway, but yes, why did that become terrifying? Because it no longer was about pretending. It touched visibility and it touched my worthiness. Yeah, it touched the belief that maybe I was allowed to take space. And that was certainly scary, unfamiliar. And another thing is, when looking at the brilliance being accidental, right? Sometimes you become witty, funny, quick with words. It's because it almost feels like a defense mechanism instead of intelligence. So you learn how to make people laugh, how to diffuse tension, definitely. This is definitely mine. How to be charming, right? How to light up the room. And because it develops through adaptation, you may never actually recognize the true brilliance underneath it. The emotional intelligence, the timing, observation, like when you really think about it, creativity, social awareness, that's huge. You may think, I'm just funny, or I learned how to be funny, but you don't really realize how much intelligence exists in even that survival strategy. Yeah. And all of that lack of awareness of how incredible you are, not just because you're useful or kind, and because perhaps no one ever told you that I can actually see you there in the spotlight. And I'm not talking literally about acting, I'm talking about like taking up space in whatever you feel that is your wildest dream. Or maybe perhaps you didn't even explore wildest dreams out of fear that you're not going to be worthy of it. But whatever it is, and if no one ever mirrored it back to you, if no one ever mirrored your brilliance, how would you know? Especially if it started in the childhood, how would you know about it? Right? Humans build identity partly because of relational mirrors. So that means the way people repeatedly see us impacts the way we see ourselves. Yeah. So if most of the mirrors, people as mirrors, right, around you reflected back your sweetness, your kindness, your ability to hold things together, while at the same time ignoring your depth, your intelligence, your originality, your presence, that eventually may start feeling like you're only good for the supportive roles, that your value is in supporting others. Yeah. Like you're emotionally meaningful, but not truly significant. And I do think this is why so many women struggle to see themselves as leaders, or it never even crossed their mind. Not because there's lack of leadership skills or qualities, but because you were conditioned to stand beside the power and not embody it. Yeah. So you learn to support, to help, to emotionally carry other people. But leadership, real leadership, is not domination. Healthy leadership comes from deep empathy, emotional awareness, fairness, discernment, the ability to truly see people underneath, right? That helps decision making. And many people, many women who were taught to minimize themselves already carry these very qualities naturally. They never really imagined that they can be allowed to step in front of the room to represent. Yeah. And that grief is deeper than people realize, because it is a particular kind of pain to feel reduced to just your usefulness. I know. Especially when there's so much more to you inside. And the saddest part is that sometimes people did see more in you, but when you've spent years of being emotionally minimized, those reflections can feel unbelievable. Maybe you remember from your life, here and there, someone giving you a compliment on something different than you normally get compliments on, and you kind of like didn't fully believe it or rejected it. It just didn't feel real. For us, criticism feels more true instantly, right? Reduction feels familiar. But being seen as more, as brilliant, magnetic, extraordinary, capable of leading, like this can feel almost suspicious, even unknown, because it conflicts with the identity you inherited. But healing that is not about becoming someone else. Very often, healing is simply becoming capable of tolerating the accurate reflection of who you are, of finally allowing yourself to believe that you are enough as you are, that there's so much more to you, and that your softness was never the only valuable thing around you. Your softness is brilliant too, by the way. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. You are not just kind, though. You are not just nurturing. You are not just the relationship material or good girlfriend material, good support system for someone. There may be entire parts of you that never had a chance to fully emerge, because nobody around you knew how to witness them, how to witness the fullness of who you are. And maybe this is the season of you finally seeing yourself full on. Spotlight on you. And it's not through survival anymore, not through usefulness, not through who needs you, but through the truth. Yeah. So maybe nothing was ever missing from you. Food for thought. Maybe nothing was ever missing from you. Maybe you are. And I'm pretty sure you are. Intelligent, brilliant, creative. A force of nature. Sensual, sexy, incredible, extraordinary, magnificent. Maybe parts of you simply were unwitnessed for way too long. And then by identifying with being useful, you attracted the energy of people needing you for that usefulness. Perhaps never truly being witness for your brilliance made you not think that you deserve more in relationships, in life, at work, in health, in self-care. You were never too small. You were never meant to stay small. Some people tried hard to keep you there, yes, but you were never that. If you think of yourself as someone who's useful to others, who's the supportive one, the one in the background, just think for a moment, maybe someone tried to put you there, but you don't really belong there. Think about it. Maybe you belong in brilliance, in intelligence, in being magnificent. Maybe your own magnitude is just bursting to come out underneath. Don't be the person that squishes it down herself, that shrinks herself, just because you were surrounded by mirrors that cannot hold your full reflection. I'm here to remind you, even if you don't remember yourself, how brilliant you are. And that's from lived experience. I've been through that journey. I love you. I care about you. It should start now, if it hasn't been the case, that you love you. You care for you. And you think more of you than you were taught to think. Okay? And that's it for today. Thank you if you made it until now. Take good care of your heart and hopefully see you next week.